Roger Thomas Staubach was born on February 5, 1942 in Cincinnati, Ohio, an only child growing up in a modest home during the tail end of World War II. His father was a Navy veteran who worked as a salesman, and from an early age, Roger absorbed a strong sense of discipline, service, and quiet resilience. He wasn't born into wealth or privilege. He wasn't flashy. But even as a young boy, there was something about him, an inner composure, a confidence without arrogance, a strength that didn't need to shout. Roger loved sports, especially football, and showed early promise as a natural leader. He was precise, determined, and fiercely competitive without being boastful. That quiet intensity would define him throughout his life. He attended Purcell High School in Cincinnati, a Catholic school where he played quarterback and safety. While he wasn't heavily recruited nationally, his performance earned him a shot at playing college football. But Roger had his sights set higher than just athletics. He wanted to serve. In 1960, he received an appointment to the United States Naval Academy, and his life took a different path, one that would forge not only a football legend, but a symbol of leadership and honor. At the Naval Academy, Staubach flourished. He wasn't just a football player, he was a student, a midshipman, and eventually a national icon. In his sophomore season in 1962, he took over as starting quarterback and quickly made his mark. He had a rare blend of intelligence, mobility, and poise. He could read defenses with military-like precision and improvise when plays broke down. In 1963, he led Navy to a 9-1 regular season, a victory over Notre Dame, and a berth in the Cotton Bowl against the Texas Longhorns. That season, he threw for over 1,700 yards and rushed for over 400, all while maintaining his academic and military duties. For his efforts, he was awarded the Heisman Trophy, college football's highest honor. But Staubach's journey wasn't destined to follow the traditional path of an NFL star. After graduating in 1965, he didn't go directly into the pros. He had a 5-year military commitment to fulfill. While other Heisman winners were signing contracts and playing under bright lights, Staubach was serving his country. He volunteered for a tour in Vietnam, where he was stationed in Da Nang as a Supply Corps officer. It was a defining time, one that shaped his view of leadership, loyalty, and sacrifice. Even while overseas, he stayed in football shape, playing in military leagues and throwing passes with fellow servicemen. The Dallas Cowboys had drafted him in the 10th round of the 1964 NFL Draft, knowing they wouldn't see him for at least 5 years. But they believed in his future, and when Staubach was finally released from active duty in 1969, he joined the Cowboys at the age of 27, a rookie in the NFL but already a seasoned leader. At first, he shared time with veteran quarterbacks, including Craig Morton. But by 1971, the Cowboys made their decision. Roger Staubach was the starter. That season, he led Dallas to a 10-0 record in games he started, threw 15 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions, and guided the Cowboys to their first-ever Super Bowl title in Super Bowl VI. Against the Miami Dolphins, Staubach was flawless, throwing for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns, earning Super Bowl MVP honors. The Cowboys were no longer just next year's team. They were champions, and Roger was their captain. What followed was a decade of excellence. Staubach became the face of the Cowboys, known for his clutch play, composure, and athleticism. He had an uncanny ability to escape pressure and deliver in big moments. Teammates called him Captain America. Fans called him Roger the Dodger. But beneath the nicknames was a quarterback who embodied grace under pressure. He didn't yell. He didn't showboat. He simply performed, and when the stakes were highest, he rose to the occasion. In 1975, Staubach led one of the most famous plays in NFL history. In a playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings, with the Cowboys trailing late, he launched a deep pass to receiver Drew Pearson. The play resulted in a 50-yard touchdown and a 17-14 victory. After the game, Staubach said, "I closed my eyes and said a Hail Mary." And just like that, the term Hail Mary pass was born. It became part of football's lexicon, a desperate but hopeful throw in the face of long odds. Fittingly, it was coined by a man of both faith and fearlessness. Throughout the 1970s, Staubach led the Cowboys to 5 NFC championship games and 4 Super Bowl appearances. He won 2 Super Bowl VI and Super Bowl XII and was the first quarterback to start 4 Super Bowls. He led the league in passer rating 4 times and was a 6-time Pro Bowler. But beyond stats, what set Staubach apart was his leadership. In an era when quarterbacks were becoming celebrities, Staubach remained humble. He deflected praise to his teammates, respected his coaches, and honored the game. Off the field, he was equally accomplished. He was a devoted husband and father, married to his high school sweetheart Marianne since 1965. During off-seasons, he began investing in real estate, eventually founding the Staubach Company, a business that would make him more money than football ever did. He proved that athletes could be successful in the business world, paving the way for future generations to think beyond the game. By the end of the 1979 season, Staubach had taken enough hits. He had suffered several concussions and was beginning to think about life after football. At age 38, he made the difficult decision to retire. He left the game with a record of 85-29 as a starter, the highest winning percentage of any quarterback at the time. He had thrown for over 22,000 yards and 153 touchdowns and had led 23 game-winning drives. But more than that, he had redefined what it meant to be a franchise quarterback. Roger Staubach's career was not marked by controversy, scandal, or self-promotion. There were no outbursts on the sideline, no tabloid headlines, no need to chase attention because his presence alone commanded it. His legacy was built on excellence earned through grit, integrity demonstrated under pressure, and a lifelong commitment to service, both on the field and off. While others chased fame, Staubach embodied something rarer: grace. He didn't play the game for spotlight or headlines. He played to win, to lead, and to honor the responsibility that came with wearing the star on his helmet and the uniform of his country before that. He showed that true greatness isn't always measured in volume or flair, it's measured in consistency, humility, and an unrelenting will to rise to the moment. He was not only a Dallas Cowboy. He became a symbol of what the team could represent at its best: discipline without ego, toughness without cruelty, faith without judgment. He stood for the belief that you could be a fierce competitor and still remain a gentleman. You could win without compromising your values. You could lead without demanding the spotlight. And you could change the game by simply being unwavering in who you are. In 1985, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a first-ballot selection, a fitting capstone to a career defined not just by numbers, but by moments that inspired. His induction speech wasn't filled with bravado or self-congratulation. Instead, it was gracious, sincere, and centered on others: his teammates who blocked and caught for him, the coaches who believed in him, and the family who stood by him through every triumph and trial. Even as he received football's highest honor, Staubach used the moment to reflect the spotlight away from himself. Retirement didn't slow him down, it simply gave him new arenas to conquer. In business, he built a real estate empire from the ground up with the same meticulous attention to detail and competitive fire that once carved up defenses on the field. But he never forgot his roots. He gave back quietly and consistently, supporting veterans' causes, youth education, and charitable organizations across the country. He mentored, donated, and served not for applause, but because it was the right thing to do. In boardrooms, in communities, in charity events, he carried himself with the same calm command and character that once made teammates follow him into the fire of fourth quarters. To this day, he remains one of the most beloved figures in Dallas, revered not only for the championships he helped bring home, but for the dignity with which he carried the franchise. Across the NFL, he is remembered not just as a Hall of Famer, but as a model of what the quarterback position could be: a tactician, a competitor, a leader, and a man of principle. He wasn't the flashiest. He wasn't the loudest. But when the moment demanded clarity, poise, and courage, Roger Staubach delivered. Every time. In a league filled with personalities, he was proof that character is still what matters most. He showed us that a man could come from the Naval Academy, step onto the biggest stage in sports, and never once lose himself in the process. He could win Super Bowls without arrogance, earn millions without greed, and walk away from the game with more respect than ever before. And when the long story of the NFL is told, not just in numbers or trophies or highlight reels, but in the legacy of those who elevated the game with honor, humility, and heart, one name will always be spoken with reverence. Not for how loud he was, but for how deeply he resonated. That name is Roger Staubach.